Every great river begins far from the sea, in some quiet place where the snow melts and the first thread of water finds its way downhill. The man the world would come to call Rumi began that way too, in a town now almost forgotten by the maps we use today. His story does not start with poetry or ecstasy or the famous whirling dance. It starts, as all our stories do, with a child, a family, and a particular corner of the earth. He was born in the year 1207, most likely in Balkh, a city in what is now northern Afghanistan, though some accounts place his birth in a smaller town nearby. His given name was Mohammed, and he carried the title Jalal al-Din, which means the glory of the faith. Later generations would call him Mevlana, our master, and in the West we would shorten a reference to his homeland of Rum, the old name for Anatolia, into the single word Rumi. But all of that lay in the future. For now, he was simply a boy in a household where God was spoken of every day, not as a distant idea, but as a living presence. His father, Baha al-Din Walid, was no ordinary man. He was a respected preacher, a scholar of law and scripture, and a mystic of considerable depth. People came to hear him speak. He kept a private journal of his spiritual experiences, a remarkable book in which he wrote of his intimate sense of nearness to the divine, and the young Rumi grew up inside the warmth of that atmosphere. Imagine a home where the air itself seemed soaked in longing for something higher, where the evening conversation might turn from the price of bread to the nature of the soul. This was the soil in which Rumi's heart first took root. But the world around that home was not peaceful. The early 13th century was a time of terror in Central Asia. The armies of Genghis Khan were sweeping westward, and city after city fell before them. The Mongol advance was not a rumor but an approaching shadow, and wise families knew that to stay was to risk everything. So, when Rumi was still a boy, perhaps 10 or 12 years old, his father gathered the household and left Balkh forever. They became travelers, refugees in the truest sense, carrying their faith and their books across an enormous stretch of the medieval world. The journey lasted years and covered thousands of miles. The family moved through what is now Iran, paused in great cities of learning, and went on pilgrimage to Mecca. Tradition tells us that in the city of Nishapur they met an old and famous poet, ALIDar, who recognized something extraordinary in the young Rumi and gave him a book of his own mystical verse. Whether or not the meeting happened exactly as the stories say, it points to a deeper truth. Rumi was being prepared, step by step, by everything he saw and everyone he met. The roads of exile became a kind of education that no single school could have given him. At last the family found rest in Anatolia, in the city of Konya, the capital of a Turkish kingdom known for its tolerance and its love of culture. Here Baha al-Din was honored, given a teaching post, and welcomed as a man of God. And here Rumi, now a young man, settled into the life that everyone expected of him. He studied law and theology with great seriousness. He learned Arabic and the fine points of religious scholarship. He married, and he and his wife had children. When his father died, Rumi inherited his position and became, in his turn, a respected teacher and jurist, a pillar of the community. To his students and neighbors he must have seemed complete, a man who had arrived. He preached to crowds. He answered questions of law. He wore the robes of a scholar and carried the dignity of one. Yet behind that calm and learned face, something was waiting. A deeper teacher, a man named Burhan al-Din, who had once served Rumi's father, came to Konya and guided the young scholar into the inner disciplines of the Sufi path, the practices of self-examination, fasting, and prayer that go beneath the surface of religion. For 9 years Rumi trained under him, and the outward scholar slowly became an inward seeker. So we should pause here and notice something quietly important. Rumi did not begin as a wild mystic or a free spirit who rejected the rules. He began as a careful, disciplined, deeply learned man, formed by exile, shaped by loss, and grounded in a tradition he knew from the inside. The fire that would later blaze through his poetry did not come from ignorance of the law, but from someone who had mastered it, and then discovered that mastery alone was not enough. The longing he would sing about was already there, planted in childhood, watered by every mile of that long road. His heart, like the reed cut from the reed bed, already carried the memory of a home it had been separated from, a home it could not name but could never forget. In the next chapter, we will meet the one person who set that hidden fire free, a wandering dervish whose arrival in Konya would shatter the comfortable life Rumi had built and turn the respected scholar into the greatest poet of love the world has known.